Joining us now, the House Minority Whip and Democratic Representative from Maryland, Congressman Steny Hoyer.
Morning.
Steny, how's it going on the Hill, buddy? You having fun yet?
You're looking
You
sharp.
asked me that question, and I said, have you been watching? It's not going so well.
Terrible, isn't it?
Frankly, Joe, you and I served together. This is the last two Congresses, the last Congress and this one, the least productive, least engaged, least inclined to compromise and come to agreement.
And why?
That I've served in. Well, I think because in 2010, people elected some very angry people to Congress who said, look, things are really mucked up, don't cooperate, we just need to change, we need to cut spending, we need to back up, retreat, and that's what they're getting. I think democracy works. I think it's representative of the people's, a large number of the public's sense that they don't want to see cooperation.
But don't we need to cut spending in some areas?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We need to cut spending, raise revenues, and have a balanced program, just as Bowles-Simpson, Domenici-Rivlin, Gang of Six. I don't know of a group that hasn't said we need to get our fiscal house in order. In my opinion, Joe, I agree with you. The most important challenge confronting our country is getting our country on a fiscally sustainable path.
Perfect.
Period.
Okay.
All other problems are contingent upon.
So I would guess you agree with me as well. We need to take care of the long-term debt by planning now.
Yes.
And that gives us the freedom to invest in education in the short run.
Couldn't agree with you more, Joe.
Transportation, R&D.
Yeah, and that's why I think we need a big, bold, balanced plan. That's the rhetoric. We're going to have to cut back on, frankly, and defense and non-defense. We're going to have to deal with entitlements. A lot of my party would like to pretend that we don't need to deal with entitlement. We do need to deal with entitlement. And very frankly, your party believes we can do it without revenues. They're dead, flat, 100% wrong.
So we raised taxes before. What new revenues would you like? Are you talking about closing loopholes right now?
You know, closing loopholes is like getting rid of fraud, waste, and abuse. It sounds good until you have to deal with it politically.
Right.
You know, what loopholes are going to close? You're going to close the three biggest loopholes, as you know.
That's what the president's
Well, what would
talking
be
about.
wrong with that?
Well, I think we ought to close loopholes.
Okay.
I'm for that.
Which ones would you close, then?
What I'm saying is, well, I think you could close loopholes with reference to, I'm for the 28%, for one thing. The president's proposal of capping deductions at 28%.
Right,
I think that makes sense. Because
can we get enough Democrats to go along with that?
I would hope we can. I don't think we can do it all with Democrats, frankly.
Should we raise carried interest? I think we should.
I think we ought to eliminate the carried interest deduction. Absolutely. That's earned income. It's not capital gain.
I agree.
Capital gain is when you take money out of your pocket, you put it at risk.
Exactly.
And you get a premium for putting your money at risk.
Right. If I get specifics. I mean,
I know.
If I get money from CalPERS, the big pension program, and I invest it, what I'm doing is providing a service.
Right.
Frankly, I'm a lawyer. If I provide a service, I earn income, even if it's a contingency fee. What do I pay? Ordinary income tax.
Exactly.
So I think there are a lot of things we can do, but we ought not to pretend that you can do it for free. I was for the Clinton rates. I'm for the Clinton rates today. Now, I wouldn't phase in the Clinton rates immediately because the economy is still trying to get back.
Right.
So I would perhaps go at least another year until you get the full Clinton rates.
Give us two cuts.
Under the
two cuts you'd make, or two entitlements.
Spending cuts?
Yeah, two spending cuts.
I think on entitlements, I think we need to look at cost of living adjustments. I think we need to look at, very frankly, let me give you a specific cut that I think we ought to go back to, in effect. People talk about, well, people can't work past a certain age. Let's assume that. But previous to the 90s, when you continued to work and you were over 65 and you earned income, you had an offset. Now, if we reinstated that offset, I'm 73 years of age. I'm still working. I'm getting Social Security. If there was an offset, it wouldn't affect me. I'm working. I'm making an income. That can get you anywhere between $80 and $100 billion
a year.
Well, there you go.
Over 10 years. To reinstate that offset.
That's great.
And then you're not arguing about can people work? Are they too, you know?
Why is this so hard?
We need a leader like Steny.
There's a mantra, though. What's the mantra of the Republican Party been for the 30 years I've been in Congress?
Can I answer?
We love America.
No.
That is a.
Go ahead, Steny. You give me your mantra.
That is a universal.
We love Jesus in America. Go ahead. Go ahead. So what do you say the Republican mantra is?
Joe. Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I love Jesus and I love America. Having said that,
Okay, I'm glad we get
lower
some
taxes,
action on
smaller government. That is the holy grail. That's the Republican policy in a nutshell.
Right.
We don't have as simple a nutshell. Well, the one I'm trying to do is make it in America. Create jobs, expand manufacturing, create more jobs in America. So that's my mantra, my 4 words. But having said that, you got to pay for what you buy. When you the tease that came on, I said there wasn't a spending problem. There is a spending problem. What I meant by that was that you don't have a problem if you pay for what you buy. In the 90s, we paid for what we buy. How did that happen? You had a bipartisan agreement between George Bush and Dick Gephardt. You had another bipartisan agreement between Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich. And we paid for things. And very frankly, we paid for tax cuts because they're not for free. If you cut revenues right now in America, we are having a product that we deliver to the American people costs $23, 23% of GDP.
Right.
And we are collecting for that product $15.
Right.
15% of GDP.
Even Mike and I can figure that's
Any business
losing money.
Any business that does that's going to go belly up pretty soon.
That's right.
Can I tell my joke again? Because it just never gets old. I mean, I'm not good at math. I went to the University of Alabama. But every year,
all right, that's a given.
We count the number 1, baby. We count the number 1. But I mean, I can even figure out the math. No, Mike, this is what we've been saying for some time. Americans have decided they like Republican tax rates. And they love Democratic spending plans.
Whoa,
and the two sides don't match up.
Whoa, Joe.
Whoa,
Joe. In the 2000s, it was Republican spending programs that they liked.
Oh, I agree. I've written a book about it.
1.5 trillion.
But I will say that.
In the war, prescription drug bill, over $2 trillion long term that we haven't paid for. We didn't pay for it.
Well,
now, what happens when you don't pay?
I agree with you.
That.
You know what? A lot of Democrats went along with a lot of those things as well.
You bet.
Along with Medicare Part D.
I voted for Afghanistan. I voted for Iraq.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we know how to pay for that. I have 3 children, 3 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren.
So when George
not to ask them to pay for it.
When George Bush became president, Mike, we had a $5.6 trillion national debt. When he left, it was $11.5 trillion. Now it's $16.5 trillion. 4 years from now, it'll be over $20 trillion. I'm sorry, these numbers are not sustainable.
Well, no, they're not sustainable. I mean, what President Bush did was he put the Iraq War on an American Express card,
right,
and then he put other spending on his MasterCard, and then he took the Visa card out and used the
Capital
third
One.
card.
You got a Capital One.
You got that one. So, but Congressman,
hold on, though, and then he handed them all to Barack Obama, who spent twice as much.
Joe, Joe, let me give you some figures.
Mike has a question for you.
Okay, let me give you some figures, though. You're going to find interesting, I know.
Okay, I know. I'll be fascinated.
Under Ronald Reagan.
Right.
Now, president's the only one can stop spending. They can veto.
Right.
Never been overridden in 32 years I've been there.
Right.
Under Ronald Reagan, the national debt increased 189%. Under George Bush the First, 55%.
You're not going to do this, are you?
I'm doing it.
Come on.
I'm doing it.
Under this president,
you can
41%.
memorize these numbers if you want. I mean,
no.
The spending. It's just like people saying, "Hey, we're cutting spending now." Yeah, you're cutting spending after 4 years of massive trillion-dollar deficits. Every single year.
But you don't want to listen to it.
No, I do want to listen to it, but yeah, everybody talks about Ronald Reagan's.
The greatest recession we've experienced in your lifetime, Joe.
You guys have been
responded to by spending money.
Reagan's deficits for 30 years now. Barack Obama rolled up more deficits in 1 year than I think Ronald Reagan rolled up in 4.
Joe, give me a break. I don't know what the minimum wage now is $7.25, okay? If the minimum wage had been $5 25 years ago, you think the $7.25 would be more than that? Of course you don't think that. The fact of the matter is, Barack Obama, confronting the deepest recession since the last Republican president when it took us into recession, Herbert Hoover and Coolidge, 41% appreciation of the national debt. In other words, increase in the national debt based upon GDP. You know, dollar to dollar, a dollar in 1900, well, now we have $1.50, so we have 50 cents more today. Well, you know that's not true. The fact of the matter is, Ronald Reagan presided over a budget increase 4 times that of Barack Obama. And furthermore, what happened was we had this deep, deep recession, and we had to respond to it. Who said we had to respond to it? George Bush, Hank Paulson, Ben Bernanke, appointed by George Bush. And you know who said the country's in trouble?
It's not 2009.
No, but
I gave you $1 trillion deficit.
You got to learn.
2009.
You got to learn because the same thing is happening.
Had $1 trillion deficit in 2011. You had a $2 trillion deficit in 2012.
Joe, you got to learn from the past.
The numbers are remarkable.
You got to learn from the past. What happened when we had that crisis that George Bush said we had, that Hank Paulson said we had, and if we hadn't acted, we would have gone off the cliff. You know what happened? 2/3 of your party walked away from their president. Who made sure that we didn't go over the cliff? Democrats, for and with a Republican president. So there was a bipartisan response. And there ought to be a bipartisan response today.
$1 trillion deficits 4 years later. We cannot continue to run $1 trillion deficits.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So we got to deal with spending and revenues.
From 1984 to 2007, in terms of corporate, personal, and government debt, the United States ran $40 trillion in debt. That's everybody. 2, I'm moved by what you said this earlier this morning. You've identified, and unlike other members of our party, whom I respect, you've actually identified specifics. 20% cap. Charitable mortgage would be good. Carried interest in, we can begin the process. $100 billion over 10 years. Why can't we get that talk out of Washington more? There was a great piece in the Journal written by Kevin Warsh and Stan Druckenmiller and Jeff Kennedy on Friday, a Democrat, Republican, Independent coming together, outlining some of this. I wish more of what you're talking about, more of the specificity, would come not only from my party, but from Washington. It would not only increase respect for DC, but actually get something done.
Happen.
Right. I mean, I hear the back and forth, and I think people are just kind of frustrated. They want to hear the answers, which I give you great credit for a long time. You're laying them out this morning.
The problem, Harold, as you well know, is that we have an ideological problem in Washington. We're dealing with a common sense, pragmatic problem, but we're dealing with it in an ideological sense. We frankly have, I think, too large a number of people bound ideologically. I've talked to a lot of Republicans, a lot. I've been working for now 3 years with some of my Republican colleagues who believe that you need to have a balanced program. But when John Boehner says not a single new cent of revenue, you can't get there from here.
Is it personal? What is it?
I don't know that it's personal. I think John Boehner has indicated, clearly demonstrated, he doesn't have the votes on his side. You know, he tried to compromise of his own. He couldn't get the votes. And I don't think he can get any additional votes right now. I think that's the problem.
Can you think of any other industry or business that could survive, never mind prosper, that could survive with the years and years of inaction and inability to get anything done as the United States Congress?
No. And the only reason we can do that is because we have such deep pockets and we can continue to do this. But no business would survive. And very frankly, managing from crisis to crisis every 30, 60, 90 days is an absurd way. There's no, I tell the press, there are 13% of Americans apparently think Congress is okay. I tell the press I want to find those 13% because they don't know what's happening. I'm with the 87%. Congress is not working, and Congress is not working just because we've got this ideological confrontation when we need pragmatic. How does the math work? Clinton said it best. You got to do the arithmetic, and if you do the arithmetic, we can get there. Paul Ryan says that we're going to get a balanced budget in 10 years without revenues.
So, Stinny, I've done the arithmetic for you, and you've helped me do the math here.
Good.
So I
came on to help you, Joe.
You did, and you always help me, and I love you, Stinny. I always have. So I'm looking at Ronald Reagan's deficits here.
189.
And 79, 128, 207, 185, 212.
Started at 895 billion.
221, 149, 155. Over 8 years, Ronald Reagan didn't run up deficits that Barack Obama ran up this past year. But even in inflation-adjusted dollars, Barack Obama ran up higher deficits last year than Ronald Reagan did over 8 years.
No, you're correct.
Thank you.
You're correct.
That's all I wanted.
You're correct.
You said, give me a break.
And why?
We got to fix it.
Because Barack Obama, first of all, was confronted with the deepest tanking economy in your lifetime and in my lifetime, and I'm almost twice as old as you are.
Really?
Really? Well, not maybe
good.
quite. Thank you so much. I feel great.
Very handsome.
You notice Denny just keeps looking younger?
Yes.
Seriously.
Doesn't make any
You
sense.
look younger now than when I served with you.
Doesn't make sense
he's
at all.
73. No, he's not.
I've got to get a look.
He's lying. He's lying.
But you
well,
not
listen,
Disclosure.
we got to go.
Ford's got a big mouth.
You said it.
Oh, my Lord.
We got to go, but Stinny, would love for you to come back.
Yeah,
I want to get into some time about, when you had us go in and talk before your group.
I want you to do that again, if
I
you
was
will.
struck by, again, the common ground that I've heard between Democrats and even a lot of Republicans I talked to when I did the same thing for Republicans. There are deals to be made here where we can come together.
I'm not going to mention names, but there's because I've been working with them, I don't want to out them, but there's some conservative Republicans in conservative areas of the country who sit down with me and say, yeah, we need a balanced program. Tom Coburn's been on here.
Yeah.
He says that.
Tom's working it.
Frankly, Tom Coburn and I have talked. We can get there if we put aside the ideological constraints that we have and say, how do you make the math work for America, for business? If we got a deal,
Right.
if we got a deal, in my opinion, would be the single biggest stimulus package we could pass. The restoration of confidence would be magnified.
Yep.
I've met with Ken Frazier of Merck a couple of days ago, CEO of Merck, and he agreed. Every CEO I've talked to,
They need the deal done.
It's a time of incredible opportunity.
Stinny, thank you so much.
bet.
Congressman
Steny
Steny Hoyer. We'll be right back with more